Welcome. Today I want to share with you a story about how food and drinks had affected me and how they kind of remedied one another. If you were with me last week, you know that I shared with you the 5 flavors of food, herbs, and spices, the effect that they have on the body when used medicinally, as well as the organs that they affect and have an affinity for too. This is all according to Chinese medicine. Hi, my name is Mallory and I am a physician of classical Chinese medicine, and let's go ahead and jump right in. A few weeks ago, a friend of mine brought over a bottle of red wine, as well as some jalapeno popper snack type things that I'll link to right now from Trader Joe's. As we sat down and started to have a glass of wine, I noticed a few things starting to happen to my internal system. And the first thing that I noticed was I started to dry out in my mouth and my nose. If you're at all familiar with wine, you know that wine grows best in warmer climates, so below the hemisphere, and it's typically grown, the grapes are grown in the spring and summer, and then they're harvested in the fall. So not only are they grown and produced in the warmer seasons of the month, but they're also best harvested and grown in warmer climates. So this makes sense that the wine we were drinking, that the red wine that we were drinking was starting to have this effect on my system. It was a Merlot, and those of you who are familiar with wine may know that Merlots tend to be more drying and warming than other classes of wine. So what we are noticing is that the properties and the flavors of the wine were having the effect on my system. They were warming me up and they were drying me out. I started to notice that I did feel warm and hot, especially in the more yang part of the body, the upper part of the body. So what I did was not grab a glass of water, which would have been a good idea too, but I started to eat these jalapeno poppers that she brought a little bit more regularly and faster. And what that did, because of the jalapeno, is it literally helped my body to pull out resources, fluids, and water to support the lack of resources, water, and mucus that I wasn't able to produce because of the wine drying me out. So the spicy flavor actually helped my orifices, my nose and my mouth, open up. And then I noticed I got a little bit warm from the spicy flavor from these jalapenos. And what that told me is it was working. It was starting to stimulate my system, got me warmed up, and then pushing fluids out into the orifices that were dried out from the wine. Does that make sense? Are you with me? So the wine dried me out, which is warm and drying, and then I used the spicy flavor from these jalapeno poppers to help my body find fluids within my system to then repair the lack of fluids that was damaged or dried out from the red wine. It's really that simple. This is why when we don't feel good as far as like cold and flu symptoms and we have a stuffy nose or we're heavy in the head, you want to reach for something that's spicy, that's going to open up your orifices, that's going to help you excrete the fluids. Now, the fluids that I was producing due to the lack of dryness didn't come from the spicy jalapeno. It came from my internal system. My body located those fluids and used them to help bring more fluids to the area that was dry. The next time you have a stuffy nose, you feel heavy in the head, or maybe you drink some wine and you're a little dried out. Let's say you go out to eat and you have something that has left you feeling really thirsty. Have something that's spicy. Have some hot sauce, have some jalapenos, some radishes. I have a whole blog post on the 5 flavors, which I'll link to down below, but specifically for this, you may want to check out foods that are spicy. So check out that spicy blog post. While you're there, consider grabbing my 5 principles for health and wellness. I love these principles so much because they never change. We can all use them. And anytime I go astray, I know that I can always come back to these principles to help move me forward in the direction that I want to go. I hope that this video makes sense, but most importantly, I hope that it inspires you to see and use the 5 flavors depending on how you're feeling during, after, and before eating specific foods. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, let me know in the comments below, hit the like button, subscribe, and I will be here next week.